Hey everyone, I am super excited to welcome back Mr. Hank Washington for the second session. What's up, Hank?
Hello, Tom. It's so good to see you, man.
It's good to see you too. See you too. We were just catching up here. It's been too long, but I know everyone loved when you came and hung out with us previously. So I'm excited for today.
Me too, man. It was so much fun last time, and hopefully today it'll be just as fun.
So what is today's session going to be showing off?
Yes, so we are actually going to show how I'm using the kickoff lettering brushes, which is, I think, specifically the soft pastel, and showing how we're going to take some very simple 2D geometric shapes and add a little bit of lighting, just using some colors, a little bit of masking in Procreate to make it a 3D object. So it's going to
Love
be fun.
that. Well, if you haven't seen Hank's signature style before, you're in for a treat because it's really, really cool seeing his work take shape. So without further ado, do you want to share your screen, Hank? I'm excited for this. Cool, there we are.
That's awesome. So definitely. So if anyone been keeping up just with what's going on, specifically with McDonald's, Travis Scott, who's a hip hop artist, just recently came out with his signature meal at McDonald's. I think it's like the Cactus Jack meal or something like that. And I thought that was super fun. I thought that was like epic just to see an artist like that. I think the last time that was done was Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, when he was playing with the Bulls and he had his own McDonald's meal. But Travis Scott ended up coming with his own meal, and I wanted to create something around like, how do we create like the fuzzies, like put Travis Scott as a fuzzy and combine the world of McDonald's and fast food. And just to get a glimpse of what the final product ultimately will look like, you can see where we started, but this is ultimately where we're going to try to work our way through, and just seeing how we can kind of create this very soft, fuzzy texture style from a 2D sketch outline to basic 2D shapes, and ultimately using the kickoff brush to add a little bit of depth.
That's so cool.
So as you can see here, I went ahead and just added our shape. So only thing I've done is I just separated all my layers and just followed our outline, right? So I'm gonna hide this outline here and add a layer, and you can kind of see it looks pretty flat in a sense, but we still kind of got a glimpse of just how the colors that we chose for this palette to start talking through like just shadows and potential light sources that we have. So, and what's really neat with the new Procreate update is now we have the opportunity to separate our little panels here, so that way we can be a little bit more flexible with our colors. So that's always fun and definitely convenient.
It's a pretty cool feature, right?
Most
and
definitely.
I can see everyone's been geeking out over the new feature where you turn a photo into that color palette. It's
Most
getting a lot of
definitely.
use.
No, they did a really good job, and I'm highly appreciative of that. Most definitely. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and start using the brush. Again, we're using the kickoff brush, and I am using the chalky pastel set. And reason being is that it's a very easy medium, and it is slow to actually apply, which gives me a lot of room to add more depth and texture on top of different layers. But the only tricky part about it is that it really mixes very strong. So it becomes like, if you're doing it on the same layer, you start smudging that layer. So it's always best to add a layer on top of it. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually start with the ears, just because I love working with these simple shapes first. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna select this layer, go back to my layers, and then I'm gonna add a layer right on top of it. And what that does is it's going to isolate that layer, so you can see kind of where that outline is not working or not going across that ear level there. And let me start with this little magenta color here. Again, make sure my brush is selected, and I'm just going to work back and forth and just slowly work in the texture here. As you can see, it starts to build up, it starts to get a little bit darker.
I like how you bring in the purple in instead of just a darker shade of red.
Definitely. Now that helps a lot when it comes to just using color, and kind of a rule of thumb that I keep in mind is that I always try to stay away from using like pure black or pure white on just shading and highlighting specifically, unless it's very, very subtle. because those tend to be very harsh and unforgiving in a sense. So you want to kind of gradually build up those values.
Yeah, my art teacher at school always taught me that. He's like, that's just going to flatten your piece out. So try and use as much color in between as you can.
Most definitely. Most definitely. What's funny is I used to have a drawing teacher. It was this lady. She was like, she's a very like short lady. She was about like, I said like 4 feet, but she was super talented. Like she can literally draw anything she's seen. And when I was learning, I think I used a black and white on one of my drawings. She came up and erased half of my drawing and made me start over. That was probably the most traumatizing experience I had as an art student, but it changed my life. And I'm forever grateful that she did that.
That's so funny. I had the same thing, man. My art teacher came up and he got a roller and just whitewashed over the entire canvas. I was like, oh man.
I just gotta start over. That's how you feel?
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, I told you not to keep sticking in your comfort zone. I was like, okay, you proved your point.
Awesome. But as you can see, I'm gonna take a pause real quick. So as you can see, I'm actually working with my light source. Let me change this up just so people can get a little bit of context. My light source is coming from this way, if you can kind of see it. Just so people can understand like where I'm making certain decisions on my shadows. So just for context, that's just a way to kind of see my light source. Okay, and then we're gonna go back and select this, and we're just going and doing the same thing on the other side, right? So we're just going through and adding shadows and just slowly building it up. And the main thing that's important is to make sure you don't add 2 colors on one layer. It's just because it doesn't mix really well, and it becomes a little bit difficult to get the right texture and the right color feel that you may want.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're going to use it on the same layer, let's say if you do it by accident, if the colors are separated, let's say if you was doing it on the right side of the ear and on the left side of the ear, that's completely fine. The main thing, you just don't want to mix your colors, specifically with this brush, because it does a really good job of mixing, and we don't want to lose any detail of that.
I love watching you work because like it comes together so kind of subtly and so gradually, but then you get to the end and you're like, damn, like, you know, when did that happen? Like it completely transforms from like these basic shapes into something that you want to reach out and grab almost.
Most definitely. Awesome. But you see, we're starting to make some progress here. So what I've done is just gone through just the sides of the card. And again, just keeping our light sources in mind. So we know that the right side is going to be a little bit brighter than the other side. But we're starting to see like this is starting to like come towards us a little bit. So we're cooking with gas. We're cooking with gas.
I thought that was an English expression.
To be honest, I really don't know where they came from, but I just love it so much.
Those color palettes are nice.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's been fun to like really pull these together just because of being able to find colors that are complementary. And then one thing I try to keep in mind is just finding colors that ultimately make sense for a highlight as well as shadows. And again, just keeping in mind, and I try to stay away from any blacks or pure whites unless it's just necessary. But it really helps keep things like very colorful. It doesn't feel so harsh. And ultimately, you'll find yourself with a theme over time as you continue to, reuse and recycle colors.
Speaking of colors, like again, I love the color palettes in your work. Every time I look at your feed, it makes me smile. It's like so bright and lively, and yeah, it's the color palette that I need in 2020 right now. It cheers me up.
That's awesome. No, I'm so glad it makes you smile, dude. That means a lot to me for sure.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it last session? Was it your Instagram where we shouted it out and it tipped you over 10K?
Yes, dude. Thank you so much. Yeah, man, I'm so glad you brought that up, man. Thank you,
that
Design
was so
team,
fun.
everyone. That literally changed over. I remember having a conversation with a buddy of mine because we were so close. I was like, man, I have to do this session tomorrow. I'm like, I wonder if I'm actually going to hit it. Like, it may be really close, but you guys came through, and man, I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, everyone that's that contribute or even just checked out the session. Like, I'm super grateful, definitely.
And we actually had Hank on our podcast as well, the Honest Designers show.
Definitely, and that was really fun.
All right, so we got the donut thing going on, making me want to eat donuts now as well.
The famous donut lips. The donut lips, and then we got the Cheeto eyebrows later on.
Yeah.
Definitely. But you can start to see like how things are starting to come together, just stacking these colors on top of each other. As you can see, it's not a lot of mixing. I try to keep my opacity over here pretty low. Let me move this out the way. Pretty low, just so I have enough room to kind of build up values, and I can put more control into the pressure of my pencil. But doing that, you can start to see like we're starting to really add some depth to these lips, and almost look like they have a little bit of a shine to them, so to say.
Yeah, it's a glossy donut.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Definitely. Okay. All right, so we're making some good progress here. Since we're on the mouth, we're going to continue to work on that. So what I'm going to do is kind of give a little bit of a shadow inside the mouth, just because we know that because of where our light source is, it's not going to be pure white in there. So let's go in. Let's get us a darker color. And let's turn this down significantly just so we can build up.
So what is this bit, Hank? It looks kind of like a screw or something.
Inside the mouth here?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like smile. So if you're familiar with Travis Scott, he has this like gold tooth. Well, he has grills, but I think
yeah.
he kind of had this gold tooth in there. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just kind of mimicking that in a very subtle way. And he has some really like nice grills to like that he usually wear, but they're so detailed. So I just want to kind of keep it simple with a just kind of with a simple gold tooth and a little bit of a smile. So okay.
Yeah, it's amazing how much character you can elicit just from quite a simple abstract form.
Most definitely. Just got to pick out some of the attributes that stick out and just, have fun with it. All right, so we kind of got our mouth settled. So we're going to move up to let's go into eyebrows and eyelids. So he kind of has his eyes closed. So we'll start with the eyelids here. And yeah, just using our palette. Let's bring it back over here. Let's get a darker color. And then again, we're just going to slowly add some value. Let's turn the opacity down just a little bit. Start add a little bit of shadows right under those eyebrows. But you see, we're starting to make some good progress here. So we're on the eyebrows now, the famous Cheeto eyebrows, just giving them a little bit of a shadow, and then we're going to add our highlights here. And then we're going to go through and show how those shadows are going onto the box. Because again, we don't want these to seem flat and 3D at the same time. We want to make sure we pick a side in whether they're going to be 3D or they're going to be flat. So, but of course we're going for 3D. So that's the goal.
That's taking shape though. I love it.
Definitely, most definitely. And just going over, just adding a little bit of kind of I guess you can say kind of a cold mid-tone, because we have our base tone with the purple, but we're just going in with this kind of orange color that's kind of the same hue a little bit, just a little bit brighter. And then on top of that, we're going to add our highlight color. Just can show that light bouncing right off the edges.
So So this is with that kind of cream highlight.
Yes, kind of with this little, yeah, I guess you can say like an eggshell white, or yeah, I can say coastal cream. Yeah.
How do you choose the opacities? Actually, like, because you kind of vary them. Like, is that just a natural feel for it? Practice, like.
Yeah, it's, I guess you say it's kind of a natural feel. So the kind of the way I work, I always keep my opposite hand like very close to the opacity and brush size, just so like I can easily adjust and change the opacity like at the same time. But typically it's usually dictated by the type of brush that I decide to use. So if I have a brush that applies the color very strongly, then I typically go on a lower end on opacity. I don't have a specific number in regards to just like what is like, what actually works. It's just more in terms of like what effect am I trying to pull off, and then how intense is the color and the brush that I'm using, like how will it allow me to apply. There have been cases where I've worked on illustrations where my opacity was super low, just because I wanted to slowly build up certain types of values and try to keep it under control as much as I can, so to say. So so it varies.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just about the control, right? I think without that control and finesse, it would be a totally different outcome if you just slap
Most
the same
definitely.
exact values on every single part, right?
Most
So
definitely.
it might look kind of quite a simple and abstract composition, but you can see there's a lot of kind of subtle painting that goes on with each part.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what are we working on next, Hank?
So right now we're just kind of building up a little bit of shadows, because right now I have the eyebrows and kind of the eyelids. Kind of, I want to give the effect that they're sitting off of the face, right? Because before we had these, we added these shadows. They look like this kind of, they're very close onto the face, right? It looks a little bit flat. So we want to give a little bit of depth by just adding a little bit of shadow here. Again, just like how we did the ears, we're just stacking on top just different values, just so we can have a little bit of range. And if you're familiar with shadows, you know that shadows tend to get darker as it's closer to the actual subject, and then it starts to faint as it's further away. So we're just going to add this navy blue color right on top of that sort of purple, but not all the way to the edge. We just want to be right under the eyebrows, just so it gives it almost an illusion that it's about to touch the surface of the little fry carton here, but it's not, fully touching it.
It's a levitating Cheeto.
There you go. The magical Cheeto. And then we're gonna go back into the eyebrows. As you can see, I turn my canvas literally every way that's comfortable, just to even apply some of these brushes and colors. So if anyone's out there that's imitating, like, don't be afraid to like even turn it upside down. I've done drawings completely upside down just so I can get that type of brush stroke that I'm looking for. So
I saw you doing that last session. Actually, it's really interesting to watch. Like, I guess it just really helps get your eye in line with the composition, right?
Most definitely. And I try to get better at it, like try to see if I can do it without it, because I've been watching like Ian Bernard do his videos, and he just keeps the canvas so straight. I'm just like, how do you keep it like, how do you keep it like that? I was like, I can't do that. I can't do it.
Shout out to Ian. Actually, he's joining us tomorrow.
That's awesome.
That should be a fun session.
Okay. As you see, I'm trying to jump it around to different parts. So right now I'm working on these little earrings here. Again, applying the same effect. So we're just gonna add a little bit of this orange here, just slowly build that up. And then let's add a little bit of that here, just because we want to give it a shadow. Oops, messed up. So I'm supposed to put that on top of that. Yeah. Again, just so that it doesn't blend. And kind of a quick trick here on Procreate, if you ever are using just two colors a lot, you can actually just hold down the color palette and it'll give you the previous color that you use. So just simply just pressing the color and it goes back to your previous color.
That's really cool. There's so many quick tricks in Procreate, actually, like little time savers and stuff.
Most definitely. In a new update, they definitely made kind of the user experience a whole lot smoother, and even just some of the effects that they added was pretty cool. And you can see just getting close, you can start seeing the details starting to come through.
Oh yeah, that's nice. Have you switched the brush at all, or has everything been the chalky pastel so far?
Everything's been a chunky pastel. So even from the very beginning of creating the simple outlines, I started with that. Just to kind of fill in the color, you can use like other brushes, kind of like if you want to use like the hard airbrush or whatever that makes you comfortable. I just work with the edge, with the chalky pastel, just to have that little bit of texture and kind of that roughness around it. But ultimately, everything's been done with a chalky pastel, just to kind of keep it very singular and keep it.
It's a nice brush. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So right now we pretty much got the body almost taken care of. So now we're going to move into the actual fries, which is kind of the hair as well. So we'll go into these. I have them separated by layers, and my layers look kind of weird, but it's intentional. I promise. I usually separate them if I am planning on animating certain pieces. So like if I decide to like make this piece move, it's really important to make sure that my layers are separated properly. It just makes the animation process so much smoother, like a whole lot smoother.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're going to go in. And this is a case where the opacity is going to change here, Tom, but because it's a bright color on top of bright color, it's good to turn up your opacity just so I can really get that application building. And again, just keeping our light source in mind, I'm just using this orange color and we're just going to slowly build up kind of the value and create like an edge here on the fries. So that way we can.
It's pretty subtle, but yeah, it's nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay, just adding that in there. Okay, and because we're not mixing these colors, it's okay to keep this on the same layer. Let's add a little bit of a highlight here. Probably can bring it down just a little bit. And I just love like the imperfections of the brush here.
Just texture. I'm a sucker for texture.
Yeah. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I have a bad habit of doing that. But again, just using kind of our light warm colors here, just start just building up value. Just keeping in mind our shadows from our light source. And essentially we're just going to repeat this, right? We're just going to repeat this throughout all of the fries just to make sure that they're making sense. And yes, and once we continue that, it'll start to come together. So we're going to jump back down here to our fries layer.
It's looking nice. Also, do you remember what I kept saying to you when we had you on the podcast about your voice?
Oh yeah, the Hank Ross.
yeah. Like
I love that.
I kept calling Hank Ross because he's as relaxing as Bob Ross to listen to. But
That's
yeah,
awesome.
a lot of people in the comments have been saying how relaxing your voice is. we were joking when Hank was on the podcast. He needs to ring up Dustin, one of the podcast hosts. Like whenever he's feeling stressed, it's like Hank can ring him up and just soothe it out.
There you go. That's what I'm here for. No, I'm addicted to that nickname. I love that, like the Hank Ross. I need to make that a T-shirt or something.
It makes it sound like we're family members as well.
1000%. I'm your long lost cousin, Tom, just in case you didn't know.
Glad to have you as part of the family.
Hey. Awesome. But again, you can see like I'm just repeating the same steps that we've done before. Again, what I love about this brush is that it's so imperfect. It's like perfectly imperfect. So it doesn't give so much of a strict, I guess you could say a strict boundary in just the way that it applies, certain colors and things like that. But it gives you enough details for it to make sense, but enough freedom to have fun with it. So again, we're just going to repeat that. And I kind of have the fries separated in this weird little order here. But again, you don't have to follow this. This is just what's worked for me in the past. So it helps a lot just to kind of keep things organized. But again, we're just going to continue to add layers. Continue to add layers and have that value slowly build up. And because I'm not mixing, I can use the same color on the same layer. You can start to see like how it's starting to show like fries are actually within the cart and how those shadows and light hits on them as they're standing next to other like smaller and bigger fries. Man, you might be right.
The values are the values are definitely much stronger in the center there, aren't they?
Most definitely. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to McDonald's when I get done with this.
Yeah, you're kind of making me want some for dinner.
Most definitely. All right, so let me make sure I keep this palette open. Oh, I got two open. Yeah. And just slowly adding those values.
How would you define value for anyone that might not be familiar with that term?
So I guess the easiest way for me, for the way I understand it, is just value is more like the intensity of light, right? So if you think of this on a grayscale, if this was all black and white. If you want to look at things like as far as like what is like pure white and pure black, like everything in between, those are essentially different values. So it's like the different types of gray. Like your charcoal gray is probably more to your pure black, closer to your pure black, versus like a light gray. It's kind of like a lighter value. And then just kind of taking that same analogy of black and white and applying it to color. So like maybe you have a very bright yellow or a very dark yellow. That's different values and pertaining to a specific color.
Yep.
And kind of understanding that that can help, like really when you get into want to learn how to really utilize shadows and having things in place and relative to each other, especially when you start adding depth. Like understanding values helps a lot. Just knowing how to take different shades of color and even how to create different values using complementary colors. So having oranges and blues and purples and greens. Like how do you apply those colors to get the same effect but would not actually stand monochromatic? So
yeah, that makes perfect sense, and it's been super interesting in the live sessions we do, whether it's someone doing illustration like yourself. We've had other experts showing photo manipulation. A lot of people when they're thinking about values talk about how these bright colors can be a distraction to understanding how the values are balanced. So they do make it grayscale and they check that everything kind of matches up before they bring too much color into it.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Most definitely. Even when I was in, studying design in school, and kind of the one thing we always started with, like we were never allowed to start any drawing with just color, even just like our small studies were required to be only black and white. Like you couldn't move, you couldn't use any type of colors. And it didn't make sense at the time. Like I personally hated it because I was like, I want to just get into color. But as of now, I'm super grateful for it because it definitely helps you see light and, and actually helps you see color, contrary to popular belief, in a whole new way that's, game changing as you grow as an artist. So there's anyone that's in school that's learning this, like, be patient. Like, all those hard lessons are worth it. Like, it's going to make sense. I promise.
Got to walk before you can run.
1000%. All right. So we are getting close here. So you can see we're starting to get a little bit more values into or a little bit more depth, I'm sorry, into our fries. I think we can go in and just kind of cheat a little bit, and let's see if we can add a little bit more of a darker hue kind of down here just to show like some little bit of depth. And then we're going to work on our last little set here.
That texture looks exactly like fries. It's so weird. It's got that crispy look to it.
Well, yeah, most definitely. These have a little bit more of a flimsy look than how McDonald's fries traditionally are, but I think they pass.
Yeah, they look pretty realistic to me.
Okay. And then lastly, we're gonna add a little bit of, let's say, like a little bounce light. All right, and we are pretty much almost there. And last but not least, we're gonna add a little bit of a shadow under our piece. So again, using our same color palette. We're just gonna slowly build up. I'm just pressing all types of buttons. We're going to slowly build up our kind of shadow here. And what I like to do is just start with just like a circle, right? Just kind of a little oval to slowly build it up. And because our light source is to the right, so we know that our shadow is probably going to bleed over to the left just a little bit more. So we're just going to slowly build that up.
It's amazing how you can almost see the light source that isn't even there. You know what I mean? Because the light's so strong. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if suddenly you scrolled up and there was a spotlight there or something.
Yeah, definitely. That's the beauty of the illusion. And I think that's how you know if you've done a good job on the drawing. If you can give off the sense that something else is there that's not actually there, then that's kind of how you know, like you kind of did a pretty good job.
Your work always reminds me of like a 3D render as well. It's people can understand the process now and how to work with light and shade a bit better. But to think that this came from some basic 2D shapes is crazy.
Most definitely. And Procreate made it really simple just to, kind of get that illusion. It's funny, a lot of that was influenced by, I was at a time where I was trying to study 3D art and like really get into like Cinema 4D and, really study like the 3D programs. And I was just struggling so much to kind of get the effect that I wanted. And, once I kind of figured out this technique, this is kind of my workaround to say, okay, yeah, this is quote unquote 3D render, air quotes, just to kind of get out that illusion. But
it could fool me though.
Definitely.
Hank, when you bring up your color palettes, they all seem very similar in color and tone. Is that because it's a preferred palette, or do you create other colors from your primary colors?
That's a really good question. So at times I'll find other colors from my previous palettes. I try to keep an overarching thing when it comes to colors. Again, I try to keep things as bright and vibrant as possible. And if I have to go to a dark side, there's a vibrant aspect to it or like an accent to it. But as far as like a formula for specific colors, I would say most cases, if I had to say 70% of the time, it's probably manipulating the colors that I already have. So in this case, I would take this palette and probably find like a different hue of these same type of values. So maybe if I wanted this to be a little bit more cooler, then I can have more blues that's kind of the same hue of the yellow and go all the way down to, the greens and potentially the purples again. But that's a really good question. That's something I never really actually paid attention to be honest. But it is kind of I guess you can say like a natural instinct thing to kind of manipulate or recycle, so to say, existing color palettes that I've used before. That's a really good question. Thank you for that. And we're just going through and adding just some final touches here, some very small touches, just to make sure that it's fully making sense. Of course, because this flower right here is leaning across, we want to make sure that we have that shadow taken care of or accounted for, so to say. And these small subtle details makes a huge difference in your work. You can just kind of see like how different it can make, what difference it can make in your piece. And if you're like me, like I try to not be so harsh on myself, because like I'll share something and I'll see it again, like on a feed or somewhere, or somebody would share, and I'd be like, oh no, I should have fixed that part or something like that. But you just, in the space that we're in now, you have to forgive yourself. You just go, okay, I'll do it on the next one. Let's just do it on the next one. That's all. Awesome. So this is pretty much it. So you can see kind of where we started. Again, I started just with a simple sketch, just like a little outline here, cleaned it up a little bit, added some simple shapes, and then from there adding just selecting those layers, adding on top of those layers, and just slowly building up value, only using the chalky pastel kickoff from the Kickoff brush set. Just another way to show how lettering brushes can be used for illustrations just as well. So just to give yourself a little bit of range and not have so much of a tight box, can create you something like this. So
I love it. That was so cool, man. Let's give it up for Hank for another incredible session. So much to learn there. We talked about values, we talked about color, as you say, shape, bringing that depth in. Just really incredible.
Like we're in a really good time to be a creative. Like it makes so much sense right now to be a creative, is because people wants to stand out. People want your voice, your perspective on things. So the main thing is like just have fun with it. Don't be scared. Just put it out there. Learn from your mistakes, and And I actually forgot one small little detail. And again, this is just the artist in me that can't.
The perfectionist.
There you go. That I just can't give up. We're just gonna add a little bit of depth behind this slip here.
Tons of positive comments coming in as well. So glad that everyone enjoyed this session, and thank you again, Hank. So good.
So much love, y'all. And no, thank you again for having me. Like again, just every time I'm able to come up here and we can chat and draw, it's always an honor.
Well, we'd love to have you back in future.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Instagram's your main social platform, right?
Yeah, I would say it's the main one, but I'm pretty much active on all of them. But yeah, just if you send me a message, I'll just be patient with me. I'll try to get back to it as quick as I can, but I promise you I'll see it. So I just want to tell everybody, I promise you I'll see it.
Love that. Really, really can't wait until we get to hang out, hopefully in Georgia again. We were going to hang out this year at Creative South live in-person conference, but definitely COVID and everything. So hopefully next year. And you promised that if I play some guitar, you're going to get on the drums, right?
Most definitely. No, we're going to do a session.
1000%. Look out for it on social media, people. Hank, you're the best. I can't wait to catch up soon. And thank you so much again for joining today.
Thank you, my friend.
All right. Chat soon, buddy. Bye.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.